I never imagined my stepmom's cruel words would lead to a heartbreaking revelation about family. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was an ordinary Thursday, or so I thought. The sun barely peeked through the heavy, gray clouds, casting dark shadows in our little living room. My heart raced as I heard the screech of her voice. "You'll never be more than a burden," she yelled, her eyes gleaming with a cruel light that sent shivers down my spine. That I stood frozen, a trembling mess, feeling the weight of her disdain like a thick fog. My throat tightened. I wanted to scream, cry, or even vanish into thin air. But instead, I held my breath, the silence wrapped around me like an unwelcome friend. My dad was nowhere to be found, lost in his work, oblivious to the storm brewing at home. Ever since she moved in 2 years ago, everything changed. My once warm haven felt cold and unwelcoming. I remembered her first few days, the way she rearranged the furniture like she was marking her territory. It felt like I was fading into the background, a ghost in my own home. I had hoped we could bond, maybe find a spark of sisterly love. But instead, her cruel words were daggers, piercing through years of longing for acceptance that I picked at the frayed edges of my sleeves, trying to distract myself from the rising tide of emotions. My thoughts raced. Was it really me? Could I ever be enough? Friends at school whispered about me, glancing over shoulders. "Weird kid," they'd say, eyes darting away from mine. My chest tightened painfully at the memory. But it was my stepmom's words that cut the deepest, echoing in my mind, trapping me in a cage of self-doubt. Then came the twist. I found an old box in the attic while searching for something to distract myself. Photos, letters, remnants of a past I barely recognized. Digging through the dust, I unearthed marks of a family I had never met. Faces smiled back at me from faded images, strangers who felt oddly familiar. I flipped one picture over and there it was, a name scribbled in neat handwriting, Rebecca. My heart skipped. Who was Rebecca? Why was she connected to my family in a way I didn't understand? I clutched the photograph tightly, a sense of urgency gripping me. Silence loomed around me like a thick fog, and my breath quickened. As I stared into those haunting eyes, something shifted. A deep-seated fear washed over me. Was there a secret in the shadows of my family? Was my stepmom guarding a truth I was forbidden to know? My mind raced, searching for answers that felt just out of reach. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The days that followed blurred into a haze of unease and distant whispers. I found myself retreating deeper into the recesses of my thoughts, the discovery of the photograph haunting me like a restless ghost. Rebecca, I whispered in the solitude of my room, hoping the name would unravel some unspoken bond. Each time I gazed at that image, I felt both an inexplicable connection and a gnawing sense of betrayal. Who was she, and why was my stepmom so determined to keep her existence hidden from me? School became a battleground of silent warfare. My heart ached as I passed my classmates, their laughter echoing around me like taunts. I felt like a spectator in their lives, my own identity disintegrating with every cruel jab they flung my way. I clung tightly to that photograph in my pocket, a small talisman of hope, but hope felt like a fragile thread, fraying with every hurtful word whispered behind my back. One rainy afternoon, the heavens reflected my turmoil, drenching the world outside as I sat alone in the cafeteria. I absent-mindedly pushed my food around on the tray, heart heavy, when Sophie, one of the few who didn't seem to mind my quietness, slid into the seat across from me. Her expression was gentle, as if she could see the storm brewing within. "Hey, you okay?" she asked softly, her sincerity a warm light in the freezing darkness of my thoughts. "Yeah, just tired," I replied, forcing a smile that wasn't my own. Sophie studied me for a moment, her gaze searching. You can tell me if you're not. I know things are tough. That I wanted to scream, to explain the heaviness that sat on my chest, but the words felt trapped, tangled in the chaos of what I couldn't share. Instead, we made small talk, and for a brief moment, I felt a flicker of warmth, reminding me I wasn't entirely alone. But the flicker dimmed as I wondered if anyone could truly understand the turmoil that was uprooting my existence. After school, driven by frustration and unanswered questions, I ventured up to the attic again. The air was musty, filled with remnants of memories long forgotten. I scoured the boxes piled high, searching for anything more about Rebecca. Maybe she held the key to unraveling the veil of secrets surrounding my family. Then I stumbled upon a small, leather-bound journal tucked behind an old box labeled Winter Decorations. My heart raced as I carefully opened it, revealing a cascade of flickering hopes and dreams, penned in beautiful script. It belonged to my mother. Her words were vibrant, bursting with life. She spoke of love, dreams of adventure, and an unwavering belief in family. But as I turned the pages, the tone shifted, becoming darker. There were entries exploring her worries, mentions of an incident that terrified her beyond measure. Rebecca, she wrote one evening, is a reminder of everything I wish I could forget. I can't allow the past to ruin our lives. Confusion washed over me. Why was my mother afraid? Who was Rebecca that she had to vanish from their lives? The words swirled in my mind, igniting a flicker of rebellion against my stepmom's coldness. My reality felt like a puzzle missing crucial pieces, and I was determined to find them. That night, as shadows danced on walls, I held the journal close. I could feel my heart thrumming, fueled by a potent blend of curiosity and despair. With each word I read, I felt a sense of urgency deepen, an acknowledgement of unresolved pain that stitched my family's story together. Just as I began to feel a flicker of determination kindle inside of me, a chilling knock reverberated through the hallway. My breath caught in my throat. My stepmom stood at the entrance to my room, her expression unreadable, yet I sensed the weight of her anger simmering just below the surface. What are you doing up here? She demanded, her voice low and sharp. You're always hiding away. Just like your mother. I froze, the journal clutched tightly in my hand. Did she know? Had she seen me with the photograph? A swirl of anxiety filled the air between us, heavy with tension as I gazed back at her. The storm that had brewed between us was now at its peak. Why do you care? I muttered, feeling every ounce of defiance rise within me. Her eyes narrowed, and a slick smile danced on her lips, but it didn't reach her eyes. Those depths were cold and sinister. Because, dear, you need to understand your place in this family. With that, she turned and left, a dark omen hanging in the air, a lingering threat that sent chills running down my spine. I was left standing in the candlelit quiet of my room, heart racing, filled with the bitter taste of unanswered questions and a secret looming just out of reach. That night, sleep eluded me, but one thing became clearer than ever: I had to know more about Rebecca. My heart pounded with resolve, a desperate need to find the missing pieces of my family, no matter the cost. The next day felt heavier than the last, the weight of the unknown pressing down on my shoulders like an invisible cloak. I sat in class, eyes trained on the clock, each tick a reminder of the fleeting time I had before I could escape to the attic again. The room buzzed with chatter, laughter slicing through my thoughts like a blade, but I existed in a different realm, one colored with shadows of the past. When the final bell rang, an unexpected storm brewed inside my chest, tugging me relentlessly toward the attic. The familiar coolness enveloped me as I ascended the creaky stairs. Upon entering, I felt like I was walking through a museum of my family's history, each box a chapter yet to be uncovered. Heart racing, I opened the journal once more, aching to piece together what lay hidden beneath layers of dust and anguish. Flipping through the pages, I paused at a specific entry that caught my eye. Rebecca, it read, is not just a ghost of my past. She is a part of me, woven into the very fabric of my existence. I fear what will come of her if I do not protect my family from the truth. My breath caught, exhaustion morphing into a shocking realization. Rebecca was entrenched in my mother's story, but in ways that seemed more tragic with each word. Suddenly, I heard shuffling behind me. Startled, I turned to see Sophie's face peeking through the attic door, a curious blend of concern and determination dancing in her eyes. "I hope I'm not interrupting," she said, her voice low, "but I've been worried about you. You've seemed so lost lately." A wave of relief washed over me, the warm softness of her presence igniting the rawness of my emotions. "It's just..." I hesitated, feeling exposed. "I found something about my mom, and it's complicated." Her eyes sparked with concern as she stepped further into the dimly lit attic. "Do you want to talk about it? You don't have to go through this alone." That I could hear the sincerity in her tone, and for a moment, I felt as if a wall I had built around my heart was beginning to erode. "It's about this girl named Rebecca. My mom wrote about her like she was something scary, something that had to be hidden." I clutched the journal tightly, feeling the weight of its truth constrict around us. Sophie looked thoughtful for a moment before speaking. "Sometimes, things from the past can affect us in ways we can't even begin to understand." She moved to sit next to me, her shoulder brushing mine, sending a small flicker of comfort through my being. "But facing them can also bring clarity." Her words echoed deep within me, a sentiment I desperately craved. Together, we flipped through the pages, and I shared my fragmented discoveries with her, the dreams, the fears, the desperation my mother felt. As I spoke, I noticed a spark of understanding in Sophie's eyes, as if she grasped the tangled threads of my family's narrative better than I did. "Maybe there's a reason your mom wrote those things," she suggested softly. "Maybe Rebecca signifies something crucial about your past that you need to confront." That I nodded slowly, though uncertainty gnawed at my insides. "But what does that mean for me? Should I even go looking for her?" Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the house, causing both of us to jump. My heart raced again as I recognized the familiarity of that sound, my stepmom's heavy footsteps on the stairwell. Panic surged within me. "We have to hide this," I whispered urgently, gesturing to the journal. That we shoved the journal into a nearby box and quickly gathered ourselves, trying to appear casual as she entered the attic. My stepmom looked between us, her eyes narrowing with suspicion. "What are you two doing up here?" "Just hanging out," Sophie replied, her voice steady but lacking conviction. I could feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating. "I hope you're not getting into anything that doesn't concern you," she warned, her tone dripping with disdain, aimed directly at me. That I bit my tongue, resisting the urge to lash out. "Of course not," I managed, forcing a smile that felt like a mask over my emotions. Once she retreated, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. "What was that about?" Sophie asked, her brows furrowing. "That I don't know. Something's off about her," I admitted, my heart pounding anew. "She's so wrapped up in controlling everything, like she's terrified I'll discover the truth." "What if you just do?" Sophie urged. "What if I help you look for Rebecca? We can figure this out together." In her eyes, I caught a glimpse of something I hadn't dared to wish for, a deep-rooted friendship carved from shared burdens. But mixed in with that spark was a flame of fear. Would I truly be able to face whatever lay ahead? "Okay," I whispered, heart swelling with a mixture of courage and trepidation. "Let's find out who Rebecca really is." As we stared into the depths of the attic, something felt different, a current of hope twined with anxiety threading through the space between us. But just as the light began to creep in, a chilling thought pierced my mind. What if uncovering the truth meant losing everything I thought I knew? The air thickened again as my phone buzzed. A message from a number I didn't recognize lit up the screen. "Leave Rebecca alone. You don't want to know what will happen if you don't." My skin prickled with dread. Who was watching? What line had I crossed? With fear settling in my gut, I realized one truth: I had awakened something far more dangerous than just the memories of the past. The walls of the attic suddenly felt like they were closing in, the air thick with a tension that tangled my thoughts as I stared at the ominous message. Sophie caught the shift in my emotions, worry creeping into her features. "What's wrong?" she asked, her voice a whisper within the heavy silence. That I handed her my phone, watching as she read the words. Her expression transformed from curiosity to alarm, and she looked back at me, concern and determination weaving into her gaze. "This is serious," she breathed, glancing toward the door as if expecting someone to emerge from the shadows. "We need to be careful. Whoever sent this might not be messing around." My heart raced. The very notion that someone was monitoring me was terrifying. But how could anyone know? I faltered, my mind racing through every secret I had kept, every whispered conversation that could have slipped through the cracks and into the wrong ears. "That if they know about Rebecca," Sophie said, her brow furrowing, "then they know about your mom's past. This could be tied to something bigger than we understand right now." Nervously, I ran my fingers through my hair, wrestling the insistent tendrils of fear that nagged at my consciousness. I thought this would be about healing, about making sense of my mom's life, I confessed, the weight of my own naivety crashing over me. But now it feels like I'm stepping into something darker. She took my hand, an unexpected gesture that stirred warmth in the pit of my stomach. "Whatever comes next, you're not alone. We'll tackle this together," she said fiercely, and her unwavering support momentarily reassured me. But beneath that comfort lay the nagging thread of uncertainty. "Right," I said, voice trembling, "but where do we even start?" "Let's retrace her steps," Sophie suggested. "If your mom wrote about Rebecca, there might be more clues hidden in other entries. Maybe we missed something." The determination in her tone ignited a flicker of hope within me. "You're right." I nodded, steeling myself against the shadows that seemed to loom larger. "Let's go through the journal again, carefully. I want to know more, but we have to be cautious." As we began to sift through the worn pages, piecing together fragments of my mother's life, I felt something shift within the attic. The air felt charged, humming with potential and dread, blurring the lines between past and present. Each sentence unveiled layers of sorrow and secrets, as if my mother's thoughts were reaching out beyond the confines of time. "Here," Sophie said, her fingers tracing a particularly compelling entry. "Your mom mentions Rebecca attending the same school as her. There's a date here," and she paused, scanning further. "There's a mention of a confrontation. It seems intense. Do you think it was about this very truth she feared?" I swallowed hard, a chill wrapping around my spine. What if Rebecca wasn't just a friend? What if she was family or something more? What if my mom felt she had to hide her existence from me, from herself? But as I continued reading, a new realization took root within me. There was an address at the bottom of the entry. A place where the past lay dormant, waiting to be unearthed. My heart raced as anticipation intertwined with dread. "We need to go there," I urged, adrenaline coursing through me. Sophie nodded, but I could see the question lingering in her eyes, one of trepidation clothed in loyalty. "Are you sure? What if it's dangerous?" I hesitated, the shadows of my stepmom's words creeping back into my thoughts. "If my mom hid this from me, then it's vital to uncover it. For her, and for the truth about Rebecca. I can't let fear keep me from finding out what really happened." With a deep breath, I steeled myself for what was to come. "And if I can't, then I won't be living my truth. I'll be living in the darkness she left behind." As we edged closer to making a plan, a new message churned the pit of my stomach into a tight knot. My phone buzzed again, causing both of us to jump. Anticipation turned to dread once more as I opened it. "Don't think about leaving. I'll know if you do." Sophie's face paled as she read the words. "This time, it sounds personal. They're serious." Suddenly, the attic's walls felt more like a prison than an open space steeped in memories. The weight of a burden I wasn't equipped to carry crashed down upon me. "We have to go," I insisted. "We have to find Rebecca before whoever this is makes good on their threats." But as we stepped toward the door, a dreadful thought clawed at my mind. What if finding Rebecca wasn't the answer but rather the beginning of an unraveling fate that I could never return from? As we descended the attic stairs, the creaking wood echoed like a drumbeat of dread in my ears. Each step seemed heavier than the last, and I could feel the weight of my decision bearing down on me. The faint light filtering through the small window illuminated our path, but the world outside felt equally dark and uncertain. "Wait," Sophie said, stopping suddenly in front of the front door. "Before we go charging off, let's think this through. We need a plan." Her voice held a steadiness I admired, even as my urgency threatened to overpower reason. A plan? I echoed, frustration creeping in. What good is a plan when every moment we hesitate gives that person more power over us? I know, she replied softly. But you can't rush into this. If whoever is watching knows you're looking for Rebecca, we need to be smart about it. We need to go in prepared. Sighing, I ran my fingers through my hair again, knowing she was right but hating the thought of waiting. What do you suggest? Let's gather what we need, maybe talk to a few people that could help us understand this better, she suggested, her gaze steady, but the flicker of fear in her eyes betrayed her composure. If we have to confront the truth, I want to be ready. With a reluctant nod, I agreed, however begrudgingly. As we moved into the living room, the silence wrapped around us like a shroud, amplifying the chaotic thoughts swirling in my head. Sophie pulled out a notebook from the shelf and began jotting down potential contacts, old family friends, perhaps, or teachers from my mother's past. Suddenly, my phone buzzed again, a soft yet insistent vibration on the table. I glanced at it, heart racing as I saw a name flash across the screen. It was an unknown number. I hesitated, emotions spiraling once more. The anxiety in the air felt dense and all-consuming, nearly suffocating. What if it's them? Sophie whispered, her voice dropping as she leaned closer, eyes wide. Maybe it's time to find out, I said, the bravado in my tone masking the fear that gripped me. I swiped to answer, holding my breath. Hello. A pause stretched into what felt like forever, then a voice emerged, gravelly and cold. You think you can outrun the truth? Every secret your mother tried to bury will find you. I shivered at the foreboding nature of the words. Who is this? What do you want? Keep looking for Rebecca, and you'll discover just how deep the rabbit hole goes. But remember, some truths should stay buried. The line went dead, leaving an echoing silence that felt as piercing as a scream. Dropping my phone onto the table, I turned to Sophie, my hands shaking. It's worse than I thought. Whoever this is, they're not just watching us. They're taunting us. We need to be careful, she said urgently, her eyes scanning mine, searching for the brave spirit she'd grown to depend on. If they're willing to threaten you, they might not hesitate to hurt you. Her concern reminded me of how far we'd come, and yet how fragile everything felt. What if this isn't just about my mom's secrets? I whispered, panic rising. What if it's about family? About me? Sophie stood up, determination across her features. Then we dive deep. I'm not going to let anyone intimidate you or pathologize your mother's life without us being there to uncover the truth. Her fierce support anchored me, but the shadows looming larger in my mind fed into my dread. What if the truth about Rebecca shattered everything I held dear? What if it revealed a darkness that would forever change the way I saw my family, myself? We took a deep breath and moved forward, glancing at the notes Sophie had gathered. Let's start with Mr. Collins, she suggested, referencing a name we had looked up, a teacher from my mom's school who might have known more. With every move, every choice, I still couldn't shake the feeling of being a marionette in someone else's game. As we reached for the door, I felt a sudden clenching in my stomach, a premonition that what awaited us beyond was just the beginning of a storm. But as I pushed the door open, ready to step outside and into whatever awaited us, Sophie seized my arm. Just promise me, she began, her voice breaking slightly. No matter what we find, you'll remember that you're not alone in this. Tears threatened to spill at her words. The vulnerability made me realize how much could be lost if we weren't careful. I promise, I whispered, feeling the warmth of her sincerity wrapping around me like a protective cloak. As we walked to the car, an enveloping heaviness clung to the air, the kind you feel before a storm breaks. Then, just as I settled into the passenger seat, an alert chimed on my phone again. This time it was a notification, but not just any notification, an image. A grainy photograph, the outline of a woman with familiar features, sent a jolt of recognition through me. Beneath it, the words read, "The truth is closer than you think. Don't chase shadows, embrace the light." My heart fluttered in my chest, thoughts racing once more. Just who was this woman, and what part did she play in my family's secrets? As uncertainty clouded my mind, I knew we were on the cusp of a revelation I had never anticipated, a revelation that may hold the keys to both my mother's past and my present, but just as the questions loomed heavy, the final words of that cryptic message wrapped around me, pushing away the possibility of comfort. The light I yearned for might just lead me into a darkness that could consume everything I knew. Sophie and I sat in the car, the coolness of the leather contrasting sharply with the heat of an unrelenting anxiety that pulsed between us. The sun poured through the windshield, bathing us in a harsh light, yet it offered little comfort. My fingers tightened around my phone, the grainy image of the mysterious woman etched into my mind, her vaguely familiar features stirring something deep within me, a sense of longing intertwined with dread. Do you think it could be Aunt Lila? I suddenly blurted out, half-formed thoughts tumbling from my mouth. My mother's sister had always been the mysterious part of our family, a shadowy figure sometimes appearing at key gatherings but never staying long enough to reveal much. She looked a bit like her in that picture. Sophie tilted her head slightly, brow furrowed in contemplation. It could be. We should ask Mr. Collins about her. If anyone knows how your mother felt about her sister, it would be him, she replied, her voice steady but colored with the same swirling uncertainty. I felt that we drove in silence for a while, the engine humming softly beneath the weight of our thoughts. I tried to focus on the road ahead, but images of my mother danced tantalizingly in my mind, obscured by questions that refused to be silenced. What had she hidden? What had driven her to bury parts of her life so deeply that even the memory felt fractured and fleeting? As we approached Mr. Collins' house, I glanced at Sophie, finding her flipping through her notebook nervously. "You okay?" I asked, trying to inject some warmth into the air. "Just trying to keep it together," she confessed, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Let's just take this one step at a time." When we arrived, the familiar sound of chimes sliced through the silence as Sophie pressed the doorbell. I could hear my heart pounding in my ears, the thrum of expectation blending dangerously with the lingering shadow of fear. The door creaked open, revealing Mr. Collins, an older gentleman with gentle eyes that sparkled with wisdom and kindness. "Ah, it's good to see you both. How can I help you today?" His warm demeanor momentarily muted my anxieties as we exchanged pleasantries. "Would like to talk about my mother," I said, sparking an instant shift in his energy. The immediate tightness of his features revealed unspoken truths lingering just beneath the surface. "I see," he said slowly, ushering us inside. "Please, come in." The living room was cluttered yet inviting, books haphazardly stacked and photographs framing walls adorned with stories of innumerable lives. Yet within a moment of entering, the shadows seemed to deepen less from the dim lighting and more from the energy that hung thick in the air. "What do you want to know?" Mr. Collins asked, settling carefully into an armchair opposite us. I recalled tales from my childhood, stories of resilience, joy, and love, but now, they felt like fragments of an illusion. "I want to know about my mother. About Rebecca." Mr. Collins hesitated, the names betraying an avalanche of memories. A flicker of caution crossed his face, but that was quickly replaced with a steely resolve. Rebecca was a complicated woman. As he began, his words wove a tapestry of my mother's youth, both beautiful and painful. The laughter, the dreams, the secrets whispered late into the night that only he seemed to carry. He spoke of Aunt Lila, revealing a sisterly bond riddled with rivalry and unspoken grief, illuminating a world I had been blind to. Here love was marred by shadows, and joy wrestled with heartache. But before I could sink further into this narrative, his phone buzzed loudly, pulling him from our conversation. The moment felt like a cruel interruption, leaving both Sophie and me hanging in an uncomfortable silence. He answered quickly, his brow furrowing deeper with each word. I strained to catch snippets of his conversation, words like apologies, misunderstanding, perplexing, and danger, setting off a siren in my mind. I exchanged a glance with Sophie as unease settled over my shoulders like an unwelcome cloak. My heart raced. "Look, can we talk later?" he said abruptly, ending the call with a resigned expression. He directed his attention back to us, but the warmth had shifted into something guarded. I believe it's best if we talk about this another time. There are issues that need to be addressed. My heart sank like a stone. But you were saying please. For your safety, he insisted, standing abruptly. I want to protect Rebecca's legacy, not expose you to danger. The weight of his words hit me like a physical blow. The tenuous grip I thought I had on some semblance of truth was slipping away. Mr. Collins, you owe me more than this. My voice trembled with urgency, but the frayed look on his face unsettled me. He met my gaze, hesitation etched on his features. You're right, and you deserve answers. But sometimes those answers come at a price. Trust me when I say that digging deeper may unearth dangers you're unprepared for. My stomach twisted, realization dawning. He knew more than he let on, and I was teetering on the edge of a precipice into unknown darkness. Sophie reached for my hand, grounding me as the shadows around us shifted ominously. We need to know. We can handle the truth, she urged him, her voice steady yet pleading. He sighed deeply, the lines of his face deepening in distress. For now, you need to stay vigilant. It's not just Rebecca's past that hangs in the balance, it's also yours. He paused, letting his words sink in. And perhaps, he murmured, glancing at me carefully, you should consider the implications of family ties that may run deeper than you realize. The finality in his voice chilled me. As he turned away, I felt each heartbeat echoing against the confusion and chaos that swirled around me. Stepping out of his house, darkness settled closer, heavy and smothering. What did he mean? I whispered to Sophie as we walked back to the car, trepidation gnawing at my insides. I don't know, she replied softly, and I could see the fear mirrored in her eyes. But we're in this together. Whatever happens, we face it. As I sank into my seat, the weight of uncertainty clung heavily in the air. Just then, with trembling fingers, I opened my phone, glancing at the photograph once more. Its haunting gaze bore witness to the unraveling chaos, and in that moment, a chilling yet undeniable truth emerged. There were layers of my family's history still veiled in shadow, filled with secrets that promised to consume me and the ones I loved most. But even deeper, a sudden fear set in, a realization that whatever I uncovered, I was now just as tethered to this darkness as the woman whose secrets I sought to unveil. Unbeknownst to Sophie, I was becoming her accomplice, bound to a destiny I had never anticipated, one that promised its own heartbreak with every shred of truth I sought. And as the car vibrated gently beneath us, I wondered what lay ahead: a dawning light or an impenetrable darkness ready to break. The car ride home felt longer than usual as I stared blankly out the window, watching the landscape blur into a series of fleeting images. It was hard to tell if the tears welling in my eyes were fueled by fear or frustration, but they stung all the same. Sophie turned the radio on in a futile hope to lighten the tension, but it filled the car with an all too cheerful tune that grated against the turmoil thrumming between us. You okay? She finally broke the silence, her voice laced with concern. That I don't know, I admitted, the weight of our conversation pressing down like a lead blanket. What did he mean by family ties running deeper? Why does it feel like we're being pushed away from the truth? I don't know, but Mr. Collins cares about your mom. Maybe he's trying to protect you from something he thinks you can't handle, Sophie offered, though even she seemed uncomfortable with her own words. That I scoffed, the sound sharp and bitter. But I can handle it. I deserve to know who my mother really was. She's alive in those stories, and if they're buried under layers of secrets, then I need to dig them up. My heart raced with indignation, yet there was a hollow ache inside. I wished I could simply move on, turn away from this icy grip of confusion and fear. Sophie placed a hand on my shoulder. You're strong, but this isn't just about you. We might be stirring up things that have haunted your family for years. Are you ready for that? I opened my mouth to respond, but the words caught in my throat. All I could think of was the courage my mother had shown in her life. Would she have turned away from the darkness that surrounded her, or would she have faced it head-on? You know what? I said suddenly, inspiration igniting my thoughts. Let's go to my mom's old art studio. Maybe there's something there, something she left behind that can give us clarity. Sophie nodded, her eyes brightening a bit. That's a great idea. The studio might hold some answers. The idea of entering my mother's sanctuary filled me with a mix of anxiety and excitement. As much as I longed for knowledge, I also feared what I might uncover. Once we arrived at the small, weathered building nestled in the backyard, a wave of nostalgia washed over me. The scent of oil paints and varnish hung in the air, mingled with the memories of laughter and late-night art sessions. The door creaked as we stepped inside, dust motes danced lazily in the fading light streaming through the windows that I walked slowly around the room, my fingertips grazing the worn wooden tables and the stacks of canvas leaning against the walls. Sophie moved quietly, peering at the half-finished paintings, each one a testament to my mother's creativity. "What do you think you'll find here?" she asked, breaking the silence as she examined a vibrant canvas of a garden overlooking the sea, a scene I remembered her painting during the summer of my childhood. "Maybe you'll find pieces of her thoughts," I mused aloud. "Letters, journals, something she never meant for me to find, but that will connect the dots." As I rifled through drawers, pulling out old paint tubes and brushes that felt like relics of her essence, something caught my eye: a small, leather-bound book tucked at the back of a drawer in the far corner. My heart raced as I pulled it out, its cover cracked and weathered but still intact. Sophie leaned in closer. "Is that what I think it is?" "I think it might be a journal," I whispered, holding it like a fragile piece of glass. The moment felt monumental. Taking a deep breath, I opened the book, the pages yellowed and slightly tattered. I began to read aloud. "I always feared that my past would catch up to me, but what if it's something deeper? The shadows of my family have always been a whisper, a lingering dread that speaks even in their absence." As I read, a chill swept through the room, and I felt Sophie lean in, her breaths matching my own as we moved deeper into the passages filled with raw emotion. My mother's handwriting flowed with artistry, and her words told stories of longing, love, and a profound fear of unveiling hidden truths. Then, abruptly, the pages turned to sketches, portraits of people I didn't recognize. One in particular seized my attention, the image strikingly familiar. The woman in the sketch bore an uncanny resemblance to the mysterious figure in the photograph. "Sophie, look at this," I breathed, my voice shaking. This could be her." Just then, the door swung open unexpectedly, letting in a gust of wind that rustled the pages of the journal. We turned, startled, to find a figure standing in the doorway. It was a woman, her expression a mixture of surprise and recognition. "Why are you in here?" she demanded, her voice sharp and cutting through the fragile air. My heart dropped as I took in her features. She could easily be the woman from my photograph. "Who are you?" I stammered, clutching the journal tightly as if it could shield me from the weight of this encounter. "I'm here for the same reason you are," she declared, stepping forward. Fear rippled through me, but curiosity pushed me forward into the unknown. Whatever secrets lay before us, it was clear that we were now entangled in something larger, something that threatened to pull us deeper into the shadows of my family's past. And as the echoes of my mother's words lingered in the air, I realized that the journey had only just begun, and the truth was far more complicated than I had ever imagined. The tension in the air thickened as the woman stepped closer, her striking brown eyes narrowing on mine. The journal slipped from my fingers momentarily, landing softly on the floor, and I instinctively bent down to retrieve it, avoiding her penetrating gaze. In my frantic scramble, I felt Sophie's presence linger beside me, a steadying force amidst the turmoil. "Who are you?" I managed to gather my voice. "You look like someone I've been searching for." "I am Elizabeth," she replied curtly, the steel in her voice belying the fear I felt creeping up my spine. "And you must be Laura, my sister." The word hung in the air like a weighty stone, casting shadows of disbelief over everything I thought I knew. My heart pounded, matching the rapid beats of my racing mind. "Sister," Sophie stood poised beside me, her eyes flitting between Elizabeth and me, ready to step in if needed. "What do you mean?" Elizabeth hesitated, her gaze sliding to the journal on the floor as if realizing what it represented, a bridge to the past she had long left behind. "Mom," she began slowly, "our mother, she kept secrets. Secrets that should have died with her, but here we are." I felt the edges of the world blur around me, confusion mixing with anger. "You've known about me?" I asked, my voice cracking. "All this time?" "That's not how it is," Elizabeth said, her tone softening slightly, though it didn't erase the initial tension. I didn't even know you existed until a few months ago. When Mom passed, I found a letter addressed to me. It mentioned you, and it shattered everything I thought I knew about our family. The pieces were clicking together, though I was grappling with the urgency to understand more. What did it say? Where have you been all this time? A different life, she replied, the smudge of pain etching lines on her forehead. After the divorce, the fallout of everything with our father, I left. I thought escaping would keep me safe from the demons that haunted our past, that a wave of vulnerability washed over me. Was feeling the remnants of my mother's absence weigh heavily on my chest, yet here I was confronted by family I never knew existed, linked by blood yet divided by silence. You mean to tell me she never tried to reach out to you? To us? I whispered, disbelief tangible in the air. She didn't want to drag me back into whatever darkness she was facing, Elizabeth replied, her expression growing distant. I think deep down, she believed she was protecting me. As her words hung between us, something in me shifted. Fear and anger began to mix with a budding sense of understanding. Perhaps my mother had made choices that were flawed, that pushed the people she loved away. Sophie cleared her throat, breaking the silence. But you want to know more. Don't you? You, both of you. I turned to her, and in that moment, I was reminded of our shared journey, the journey fueled by a thirst for truth, no matter how painful. Yes, I said firmly, a sense of determination rising inside of me. We have to uncover what she faced, what tore our family apart. There has to be something more in that journal. Elizabeth's gaze softened as she bent down to pick it up. I can help you, but we'll need to be careful. The truth can be dangerous. Dangerous? How? I asked, a pit opening in my stomach. The secrets our family holds have a long history rich with pain, betrayal, and tragedy. They're not just about you or me, Laura. They're about everything that surrounded our mother, everything she ran away from. Just as I was grappling with the enormity of her words, a sudden realization struck me. The lingering shadows of my family's truth were somehow tied to the unfinished paintings in the studio, the ones that felt alive with her unspoken emotions. What if there are other journals? Other pieces of art? She buried the truth in her work. Elizabeth shifted, her demeanor shifting into something more resolute. Then we're on a countdown. We have to find them before someone else does. They can't fall into the wrong hands again. Hope flickered in my chest, igniting the flame of determination as I nodded. Let's do this. That we began rifling through the studio together, a new alliance forming amidst the uncertainty. As we dug through supplies, I tried to peel back the layers my mother had wrapped around us, all the while looking for solace in shared understanding. Then, just as a glimmer of sunshine broke through the clouds outside, I found another sketch, a dark, shadowy figure entwined with vivid colors. The resemblance tugged at my memory, and I stopped, transfixed. Elizabeth, who is this? I pointed, my voice barely above a whisper. She leaned in closer, a mixture of emotions washing over her. That can't be, she murmured, her voice trailing into a stunned silence. Can't be what? I pressed, urgency twisting my insides. Just as Elizabeth opened her mouth to speak, a sudden loud noise from outside shattered our moment, dragging us back into a reality only now beginning to unravel, the uncertainty thickening around us again. The door swung open violently, revealing a figure silhouetted against the fading light, a man whose familiar contours sent a jolt of recognition through me. Get away from her! He shouted, panic and protectiveness intertwined in his voice. And in that instant, a wave of dread crashed over me, as a roar of questions screamed through my mind. Who was he, and what did he know about this burgeoning truth we were desperately trying to unveil? I stood frozen, the weight of the man's presence pressing down on me. His fierce gaze darted between me and Elizabeth, filled with an urgency that suggested he knew something we didn't. Panic surged in my chest, knotting into a painful ball as I tried to piece together the fragments of the unfolding chaos. Laura, I told you to stay away from her. The man's voice barked, raw with emotion and authority. Who are you? I echoed, unable to suppress the trembling in my voice. That he stepped closer, the shadow of his stature consuming the light filtering through the studio. You don't remember me, do you? It's been years. Josh, your stepfather. The confessional sound of his name thrust me instantly back to memories I had buried deep. I felt myself recoil, disbelief drafting a wall between us. What are you doing here? You have no right to interfere. Elizabeth's face contorted, flaring with confusion. Your stepfather? Laura, I thought he was out of the picture. Josh ignored her, his eyes laser-focused on me. You need to listen. This is dangerous. Elizabeth shouldn't be here, and neither should you. Not after what your mother did. My heart thudded loudly against my ribcage, each beat echoing a pulse of resentment. It took everything inside me to suppress the tidal wave of anger threatening to drown out my rationality. You think you can come here, spouting threats like you're some kind of protector? You broke us apart. I shouted, and the words caught him short. That I am trying to keep you safe. The truth about your mother. There are things she didn't want you to know. Things about our family, things that go deeper than you can imagine. His voice trembled, a blend of fear and desperation. That go deeper. Elizabeth scoffed, crossing her arms defensively. What, is that supposed to intimidate us? You don't get to control this situation. But the shift in Josh's demeanor twisted my gut. His expression revealed a hidden torment, a knowing burden that made me falter. What do you mean, you're trying to protect us? Just tell me what happened. I yelled, feeling a mix of desperation and vulnerability. That a strained silence fell upon us as Josh hesitated, weighing the consequences of baring his heart. Your mother had enemies, Laura. Enemies that didn't just fade when she left. The secrets she buried, they're still very much alive. And whoever is after her legacy is still lurking. A cold wave washed over me at the thought of shadows lurking over our lives, threatening every flicker of happiness I had tried to reclaim. Elizabeth's body stiffened, her gaze darting between Josh and me as she processed the weight of his revelation. And how do you know all this? I asked, my voice steadier, but a pit still lodged in my throat. He stepped further into the room, his expression pained. Because I've been watching. I made sure to keep tabs on the family, even after the divorce. When I heard she passed, I knew I had to come back. There were signs. Strange occurrences. Other letters I found. Things that told me our past was coming back to haunt us. My insides roiled at the thought of him lurking in the shadows, a stranger among my people. So what do you want? I demanded, my heart racing with a newfound mix of fury and fear. You want me to run scared just like you did? No. He pleaded, running a hand through his hair in frustration. I want you to be prepared. I didn't want to believe it, but the truth is dangerous, and every moment you spend here puts you at risk. Sophie, who had been silently observing this escalating drama, finally stepped forward. Everyone deserves to know the truth, Josh. Hiding from it won't protect us. Then you're all fools. He snapped, his voice cracking under the weight of urgency. There's a reason she didn't tell you. You think those letters and journals are just family memorabilia? You have no idea the time we've lost because of them. In an instant, the tension snapped, igniting a fierce need for clarity. There was an undeniable link between us. The tangled strands of love, betrayal, and survival glued us together, yet roadblocks emerged at every turn, threatening to tear us apart. Help us, then, Elizabeth said, her voice soft but resolute. If you know something, we need to understand everything. Separate lives don't keep the past from creeping in. We need to face it. The charged air grew thick around us, heavy with unspoken feelings and restless ghosts. Josh hesitated, the resolve in his posture faltering for just a flicker of a moment. I'll tell you everything I know, but we have to be smart. It's a dangerous game you're playing, and I can't promise your safety. Not with what's lurking in the dark. As I glimpsed the uncertainty in his eyes, a gnawing sensation spread across my heart, stinging with the sting of an impending storm. Would knowing the truth lead to our salvation or our ruin? At that moment, a sudden sound shattered my crumbling peace. The front door, swinging open violently, accompanied by a figure wreathed in shadows. Laura! Came a voice I recognized all too well, my breath catching in my throat. You need to run. They're coming. With that, fear ignited a primal instinct in me. The truth, whatever it was, whoever it might lead to, was no longer a choice. It became a whirlwind of emotions spiraling us into an unknown danger. There would be no easy way out. Not anymore. I stood there, frozen, the urgency of the moment wrapping around me like a thick fog. The figure bursting through the door wasn't just any stranger, it was my father, his face lined with worry and panic. "Laura, you need to listen to me," he urged, his voice breaking like shattered glass. "Dad," I exclaimed, my heart pounding with an unsettling mix of relief and fear. "What are you doing here? What's happening?" He stepped forward, urgency radiating from him. "It's not safe. There are things I've hidden from you, things about your mother and about Rebecca that you don't understand." His gaze darted over to Elizabeth and Josh, understanding passing among them like unspoken words. "Who is coming?" I demanded, fear swirling in my gut like a tempest. "What's going on?" "Enemies of your mother's past," he said quickly, his hands shaking slightly as he spoke. "She tried to keep you sheltered, but the truth can't be buried forever. I've kept my distance to protect you from all this, but it only makes it worse. We have to leave now." A cold wave of dread washed over me, the weight of family secrets pressing down heavily. "You knew. You let her keep this from me." I wanted answers. "Why didn't you just tell me who Rebecca was?" "Because shrouding the past in secrecy seemed like the only way to keep it from fester and causing further pain. I thought it would protect you, but I see now how isolated you are, and how far we've come from true understanding," he said, anguish echoing through his tone. Sophie had stepped closer at my side, her presence a comforting balm amid the storm. "Laura, we have to take this seriously," she urged, her wide eyes searching mine for strength. Josh moved forward, his expression softened by concern. "If he's right, and whoever is after your family is closing in, we can't stick around here unprepared. I can't leave without the truth." I cried out, an emotional crescendo that poured from my very core. "If we leave now, he'll never know." "Then find it, but find it carefully," Dad interjected, the resolve in his voice unwavering. "Every moment we linger puts your safety in jeopardy. Your mother was involved in something dangerous, and the repercussions spilled over into your life and Elizabeth's as well. If we don't act quickly, we could end up a part of her mistakes." The room spiraled with tension, the weight of unspoken truths suffocating me. "So what? Just abandon the search for my mother's story? The one I so desperately need to understand?" I looked from Josh to Elizabeth, then to Sophie. Each face reflected the same battle of conflict and urgency. "Ill help," Elizabeth offered, her eyes fierce with determination. "If we're all in this together, then let's find what we can before it's too late." As I looked at her, something shifted within me, a burning flame ignited by unity. "Okay. But we have to move quickly and decisively. I need to know what she faced for all of us." The room buzzed with urgency as we formed a hasty plan. We would look through every painting, sketch, and journal before the shadows of uncertainty engulfed us once more. Fingers trembling with adrenaline, I grasped my mother's journal, leafing through the vivid illustrations that narrated her life struggles and joys. Each page whispered secrets that felt like a lifeline, intertwining my fate with hers. As we sifted through her artistic expressions, the air thickened once more. It happened so suddenly, a loud explosion shook the building, vibrating through my bones and knocking us off balance. "They're here!" Dad shouted, instincts kicking in. All four of us moved in an instinctual dance, fear galvanizing every action as thoughts flitted through my mind. I had just unearthed the truth, yet it came with a heavy toll. "Out the back!" Josh shouted, leading the way as we made our escape through a darkened corridor leading to a small alley behind the studio. My heart raced, fear clawing at my throat like a vicious animal as we darted around dark corners. Just then, a car screeched to a halt outside, lights flooding the alley. I turned, adrenaline coursing through me. "We have to move," I urged, and we dived into the safety of the shadows, my heart pounding louder than my thoughts. But even as we sprinted away, the truths we were running from trailed closely behind. As we scrambled down the narrow streets, it felt like the shadows were encroaching upon us with every hurried step. The energy around us crackled with desperation and determination, yet uncertainty loomed over our heads like a dark cloud. I could feel the fear burrowing deep into my core, mingling with the emerging understanding of my family's hidden past. Where should we go? Sophie asked, glancing back nervously as sirens blared in the distance. Let's head to the park, Dad said. It's crowded. They won't look for us there. As we dashed forward, I could hear the distant yet encroaching footsteps trailing behind us, seeping into my mind like a dark specter. My heart raced wildly, each echo amplifying my anxiety. Fear twisted inside me, knowing we were uneasily tethered to danger. I had the feeling that every truth we uncovered wouldn't set us free, but bind us closer to the turmoil that had broken my family. But against all odds, I felt a flicker of hope burning within me, a determination not to let fear define me. Together, we would unveil the secrets hidden within our bloodline, even if it meant confronting monsters lurking in the shadows. As we reached the edge of the park and stumbled into its chaotic embrace, I felt the vibrant pulse of life surrounding us, children playing, couples walking, and laughter resounding against the backdrop of sinking sunlight. It was a contrast to the fear that gripped my heart. Now what? Elizabeth asked, breathing heavily, her eyes wide with both fear and furious determination. That we regroup, Josh said, scanning the area and ensuring no one was close behind. We need to analyze everything we've uncovered and prepare for what we might face. That I felt a surge of defiance, intertwined with uncertainty. And we need to confront whoever is haunting us, the ones who sent the warnings. We can do this together, Sophie added, her fierce spirit igniting a flicker of courage in my chest. That's when it hit me. Staring into the faces of those by my side revealed buried emotions rushing to the surface. I reached deep inside, realizing that this journey, however treacherous, had led me to them. To unite against the darkness that sought to divide us, claiming something not even our blood could possess, our choices. And beneath the darkened skies, hardened by years of secrets and shadows danced, the final spellbinding truth began to dawn. The ultimate act of defiance was not merely unveiling the secrets but daring to embrace one another in the face of it all. That we were bound not just by blood but by the unwavering truth of love and shared struggles. Even fear could not recognize the bond growing within us. The confrontation with demons past was imminent, but I felt a resolve in my heart, a resilience that defied fate, promising that no matter what awaited us, we would rise together in the face of the darkness, because the heaviest truths flourish in the light of love. With that realization, I knew we were ready to face whatever lay ahead. We would reclaim our family's narrative, one truth at a time. And in the depths of that tumultuous night, with courage igniting our souls, we were, at long last, ready to dance with the shadows. No more running. We were finally coming home.